And just as a reminder, a pearl of wisdom is, I call it something a pearl of wisdom because if you only worked on this one, you literally can create, as a co-creator, a world that delivers to everyone, and you being a part of that collective. So if you only engaged in the wonderments of the vibe of Tranquil, how cool is that? That we can actually spread this wonderful vibe and create a world that, co-create a world that delivers to everyone. So let's look at Tranquil. It was quite blissful, actually, for me to be working with this as I was preparing for the Pearl of Wisdom delivery today. The 7 wonders of the Tranquil vibe. And how do you get from where you are to actually being in this wonderland of Tranquil? A great build up to, to the day today. It's 11:11. The gates of manifestation are open. And those of you in the US, you will be going to sleep and then really entering the gates of manifestation in your dream state. So being in the Tranquil vibe, as you do that, is quite an exciting proposition. So let's look at what Tranquil actually is. What's that vibe of Tranquil? I say Tranquil vibe. What is it? It's a vibe where you're free from any disturbance. And the disturbance could be anything. You're in a state of calm. And that's what the vibe of Tranquil is. I looked at, a whole collection of experiences in my life to really feel this experience of Tranquil. And the best and the most succinct way to describe it is where you are free from disturbance. And disturbance could be in the form of anxiousness. Disturbance could be in the form of a niggling feeling where you feel in some part of your life you have to or you need to. Disturbance could be an interruption in your flow. And I experienced, we had an earthquake in Delhi just a couple of days ago. And we were up quite late, actually. So we went to bed. Me and my cousin and her sons were there at home. And we went to bed about just like, about 2 minutes to 2 a.m. And just as we were, I was getting ready to go to bed, just looked up at the fan was switched off and it's moving, it's rocking. Then I realized, oh, the bed under me is also rocking. And it lasted about 30 or 40 seconds. It was a long one, actually, and turned out to be 5.7. Mm-hmm. And I just tuned in and it was all going to be fine. So it was fine. I didn't move, it was okay. The rest of the family, we didn't need to be, just on my tuning in, I said, it's okay. We can just be here. And I realized that even though that was like a huge disturbance, if I was in Dubai, we would have had the sirens going in the building, whereas that we don't have those built in here in Delhi. So we could just say, okay, it's all cool. It's going to pass. The aftershock was actually much lighter and it was fine. But I realized I was free from disturbance. I also realized that when I tune in, I use this word, okay, let me tune in. I'm actually free from disturbance. That's what enables me to tune in, because we all have that ability. I always had this ability. When I went back and looked at times in my life where I have made some quite significant decisions, not based on logic or facts, but based on what I now call as tune in, I was in this Tranquil vibe. It isn't something that I am privy to now in my state of spiritual awakenings. I always had it. I just didn't engage with it too much. Because somehow being in a space with a lot of disturbance gave me lots to do. And being in that, and then I didn't need to engage with however it is that I was whatever it is that I was actually experiencing at an emotional level at the time. So the revelation to me, and we haven't even begun the wonders yet, but the revelation to me on the tranquil vibe, and this is what I want to present to all of you and each of you, that you always have it. That is base camp. Base camp is tranquil vibe. There is actually no disturbance in the base camp. And then we add disturbance. I mean, the interesting thing, and this is so huge a revelation. The interesting thing is, and Catherine, you're part of my business collective. So I talk about fact and meaning. And those of you who've done the deeper journey into miracles work with me and with us, you've also heard me talk about, there's fact and meaning, separate the fact from the meaning to get that vitality back. In the realm where you are focusing on facts, there is only facts. It's free from disturbance. So what adds disturbance? It's the first time you give meaning to something. And we blame the mind is a meaning-making machine. Well, my premise is the mind is only about spatial awareness. It's about ensuring that you are in a space where you continue to survive so that your soul can fulfill its ambition, through your human form. It is the thoughts, which is a vibrational construct that creates meaning. And it is the first time we engage with meaning that disturbance starts to kick in. I've been engaged in a study of baby steps, as some of you already know, by observing my little grandson from the moment that he was born. And it's as if I have seen the first moment of disturbance entering his life when he first gave meaning. As a baby, he operated on facts completely. He can get away from disturbance quite easily, but he is in the disturbance realm, because there's lots of meaning he is giving to things. This is what happens to us. So the exciting thing is that we all have the tranquil vibe, like oodles of it, abundance of it. And the tranquil vibe, by its very nature, is free from disturbance. And there is a natural state of calm within. So let's look at the 7 wonders. The first one is marvel. Marvel. What is marvel? To become filled with surprise, amazed with curiosity. Marvel, wonder, they really are the same. By the way, today is, I'm having to be very conscious about, we have the vibe and we have wonder. So my natural Indian accent goes wonder, vibe. So I'm being very conscious of making sure I pronounce it right. So just in case you notice a little bit of hesitation, it's me remembering it's time to use the word, not the V, when I talk about wonder, and V when I talk about vibe. So let's look at the first wonder, which is marvel, becoming filled with surprise, amazed, curiosity, experiencing this experience of this rendition of wonder in Wonderland. Well, it was great to realize that, okay, that is one of the wonders. So if I look at this little incident, and it wasn't little, actually, it was quite significant because people did go down, walk down, and there was a gap, some of the people went down, and there was quite a lot of discussion in the residents group about the earthquake. But literally, we were filled with surprise. There was no question about that, oh, this is interesting. And there was an amazed curiosity about, oh, what impact did it have? But because we were stationed in the tranquil vibe, we actually could marvel the experience that we'd all gone through only moments ago. And we were able to proactively reach out to our circles to ensure that nobody out there was impacted in a negative way. And were there areas that we were required to provide support, we were able to do all of that. Staying in this vibe of tranquil. And this is like 2 o'clock in the morning, or, so many of our connections are in other parts of the world who are picking up. Okay, there's been an earthquake. So, we were able to actually share that all is good here. So we literally weren't in a state of panic. We weren't imagining anything. We were actually free from disturbance. And in that space, we were able to be fully present, all of us. There were 2 young 20-year-olds and my cousin and myself. We weren't even necessarily talking to each other, actually. We literally just said, okay, we are in a cool state, and each one reached out to their own circles. And we regrouped, had a very powerful completion of our experience after about an hour and went to bed. Now, the interesting thing is, as a pearl of wisdom, the focus on this pearl of wisdom is on the vibe. And the vibe naturally multiplies. So tranquil is a one-word description of really the pearl of wisdom, which is the vibe of tranquil, free from disturbance. So by being in this space, even when something that could have shaken us up and our vibrations would have been impacted, I know for a fact that if my vibrations are impacted, they automatically ripple out and touch everyone that I'm connected with, directly or indirectly. And it isn't, that applies to each one of us, each one of you, right from the time that you were conceived, that you made the choice to take this human form, you made soul agreements. So you are connected to those that you've made soul agreements with. They may or may not remember it, but the connection is there. So whatever it is that is your vibration does touch many more people than you realize. So in that moment of where the earth shook and it had its own effect on people, being in this state free from disturbance, we were able, each one of us, we didn't need to go into any process. If we were just in this state, filled with surprise, amazed curiosity, we were able to be free from disturbance and do whatever was called to be done, remaining in a state of flow. No big trauma drama was linked to anything that we communicated. Whatever you ever communicate in any form whatsoever is laced with your vibrations at that moment in time. So whenever we share, and it could be sharing a doom and gloom perceived scenario, it is laced, well, your communication is laced with that. So not only are people that you are connected with, directly or indirectly, I'm talking about the vibration part, not only do they pick up certain things without you even having to say anything to them, your communication, the people that read it and react to it, they also get impacted by the vibration that is laced in that communication. So this wonder of marvel enables you to step into a realm of curiosity, a curiosity about what are the wonder elements in what it is that I'm engaged with right now. Are there some hidden surprises in here? A surprise isn't necessarily positive, and that's okay. Engaging in possible surprises, coming with a quest for discovering wonder, you're actually giving a very powerful instruction to the universe that, come on, reveal some wonders for me. I'm ready to be surprised and amazed with curiosity. And then off you go. I can spend a whole pearl of wisdom just on this. But let's go to the second wonder. The second wonder is fascination. The second wonder in the wonderland of the tranquil vibe is fascination. Well, I mean, what's fascination? Irresistible attraction. And what is attraction? What's the impact of attraction is a desire to be curious. Irresistible desire that, invokes curiosity is what fascination is. So once I got that, okay, this is one of the wonders of the tranquil vibe. And this is where I went into, okay, I'm going to pick one or two situations in my life where the tranquil vibe was present that I can recall. And I decided to go on an irresistible attraction hunt. Like literally diving into that. Sometimes some of the people say to me, why do you insist on going back and looking at things? We've actually learned to just put things away and not bother with them anymore. It's taken some effort to, rise above whatever might have happened before or to move forward from it. And one of the reasons why I ask you to do this is that as you do it, you are actually completing. Where the completion has already occurred, you actually won't even be able to remember it. So when I ask you to go back and you pick certain incidents, you're only able to pick them because they still exist energetically. They're still present. And by doing the look back coming from a context of the Pearl of Wisdom, you've already established that you're ready not just to move on, but actually to catapult to a new level of upliftment from that looking back. So now using the fascination, wonder of the tranquil vibe, doing a deep dive on particular situations where you experience, you uncover, you discover the irresistible attraction, the intrigue that existed, which kept you going in that circumstance, actually starts to fill up your treasure trove of all that makes up your wonderland. You are literally immersed in this wonderland, and you're discovering these different facets of that wonderland. We know the situation that I took up, there was a point in my life, and Catherine was an important part of it at that time, where I came over and I was going to actually, we were going to do our big drive, you know, and we get into this car in Boulder and we are now driving to Charleston, you know, and it was a drive where something quite significant was being processed by Catherine in a very important area of her life, which actually was affecting all areas of her life. You know, it didn't feel, it was not free from disturbance. It was rich in disturbance at every level. And yet she was the main driver for that long journey. You know, so I literally went into that and I thought, okay, let me apply this wonder inquiry into that big drive, the road trip from Boulder to Charleston. You know, and so many layers actually got peeled and revealed as we did that drive. And literally, it was a full spectrum reinvention that Catherine went through in a container, which really was the tranquil vibe. So she could feel the emotions that she was feeling fully. And yet, deep within, there was a sense of calm. It was a very safe drive that we did. And we did drive all the way through with a few stops. And there was a particular point where, you know, she would go into this deep immersion and in fact even become physically sick with what she was discovering. There were times where, you know, she's gone to the restroom and hasn't come out, and I go in and she's like hung on to the pot and vomiting and stuff. And well, it was not laughing matter then. But because the container was one of the tranquil vibe, we didn't call it that then, she was able to rise above it. And there was a turning point where completing this reinvention at all levels became an irresistible attraction. Because every time she completed something, there was a huge revelation. And from that revelation, she was on a new vantage point, and that led to the next piece and the next piece. We literally peeled off all the layers of the onion, and it could only be done on a road trip. And it was necessary to be done before we got to Charleston. Because in Charleston, you know, the focus was going to be on turning around the business. And all the relationships that were important to the business, really the urgency was turning around the business. There would have been no time whatsoever to spend on dealing with any of the relationships that were there. And we didn't need to, because it was all done. In that journey, which unbeknown to us at the time, was occurring in the tranquil vibe. Despite all that occurred, Catherine, you were in the wonderland of tranquil. And you know it now with benefit of hindsight, that that is what was there. I mean, given that I have talked so much about your situation, I don't know if there's one or two sentences you might want to say here.
Well, I just want to add that, Mynoo, you were so masterful in reminding me that we couldn't complete the journey to Charleston unless we got through this. And I say through it. And it was all about that journey. And we actually didn't go to Charleston. If you remember,
Yes.
We headed to North Carolina to sort out the last issue. And I had only known you 2 weeks.
Yes.
So this was just a magical. So thank you so much, because it was really a lesson to be learned, because when you're in it, it's like the eye of the storm sometimes. And there was a tranquil vibe at the other side of it. You know, I can now see that. So thank you for that reminder. Wow, what a journey.
And, you know, the interesting thing in discovery for me was, as I did this, applying the Pearl of Wisdom work, I knew that the container was the tranquil vibe all along. You know, it was very easy for us to say, oh my gosh, she is so ill, we have to take a detour and go to, you know, urgent care or something. And we didn't. Because whenever you were in that space where you were going through the physiological experience, it would complete, right? We went back to the car and you were fine.
Right.
You know? And when you were going through it, it was quite intense.
And you kept explaining that this was part of the process, just to be with it. And I thought, are you trying to kill me? What's happening? Because in the moment of the purging, which is what was happening, literally, it was hard to imagine it, but then it would pass and, you know, there was magic. So thank you for that reminder. Wow, what a story.
So the fascinating deep dive, and the interesting thing about the tranquil vibe and this particular Pearl of Wisdom is you can take any incident and just go deep dive. You will enter wonderland. And from that, you will uncover a whole variety of things that sometimes come together to create that experience, that wondrous experience. The third wonder, the third wonder is astounding. These are all really lovely words, really, about the tranquil vibe, you know. Astounding, surprisingly immersive or notable. I mean, even in what I shared here, in what we did with Catherine on our road trip, I have gone on road trips, but that was one which is truly astounding, and it was immersive, and it was notable every step of the way. So much came out from that. My whole body of work, which gave me this understanding of full spectrum living, emerged from that big road trip and what we achieved. I mean, literally, this whole piece about extraordinary life is all aspects of life coexisting with joy, ease, and grace omnipresent. That was evidence delivered. There wasn't joy, ease, grace omnipresent all the way as we were in the middle of the journey, but we're allowing ourselves to remain immersed and making a note of the notable discoveries and insights and nuggets and action points enabled us to go and deal with a very significant, you know, partner dispute in a business and a very significant turnaround of the business itself. And it came from something that was only emotional. You would not have connected it directly to the business impact that it actually had. So when I say all aspects of life, they coexist anyway. So who are we kidding? Why have the pretense? And hence, when I say to Catherine, you were in a container of the tranquil vibe, but that container held all aspects of life.
Mm-hmm.
In her personal life, relationships, work, all of it. So when you choose an incident, I mean, the road trip was an interesting one because there was a before and there was the after. And there was the road trip itself. It's as if the before and after, the road trip actually was the one that provided that the foundation to be able to cross the chasm that had been created in the business that was being run at the time. And it was a big chasm. That road trip, for how many hours it was only, it was only hours, it wasn't weeks. It wasn't months, it wasn't years. Enabled us to cross the chasm and land on solid ground. And it was solid ground, so the key leaders of the business could create a springboard from which to take off to the next phase of that particular business and the relationships that were foundational to it. Now, this happens, the chasm occurs for everyone. It may be a career, it may be a project, it may be a campaign. You begin and you have lots of early adopters that come on board. And it's very easy to get lost in, wow, we are magnetizing our customers, we're magnetizing our tribe. And then suddenly it stops because the early adopters are already there. It hasn't become mass appeal yet. And that's the start of the chasm that happens in a business, that happens at work, that happens, like I said, in any campaign that you may believe in. You enter a chasm. The depth and the stretch of the chasm is determined by the choices you make. It's very clear when you entered the chasm that what you've done before is not the way to appeal to those that are actually going to convert what you are bringing forth and create a mass movement out of it. There is some additional understanding of what's going on required. And there is a risk of losing your early adopters if you spend too much time inside solving whatever it is that comes in the way of the chasm. So there are multiple points that you have to be working on. It automatically calls you to be in a state of immersiveness. And you can be immersed and you can get overwhelmed by the situation. But by actually being in the tranquil vibe, in this third wonder of this vibe of astounding, being in that immersive state, you automatically are distilling insights that are notable and acting on it, not just jotting notes. And as you act on it and you keep moving forward, you actually keep seeing a new vantage point, and then you take action, you see a new vantage point. You don't go into the collapse of you don't collapse into the depth of the chasm. You're able to cross the chasm with conscious awareness. And Catherine, you've never heard me analyze that road trip in this way, but that is exactly what we were doing. We were crossing the chasm. There was a very powerful business proposition that Catherine had co-created. But it really was her calling. But because the co-creation had taken place, the assumption was the other party was equally vested in what she was doing. And then the realization that actually the other party wasn't as vested as she was. It was her calling. There was tremendous grief and sadness that was there too. And yet she couldn't allow herself to be consumed by that. But understanding that fully called for a level of immersion. And in that immersive state, being able to distill the notable action points and insights enabled her to keep crossing that chasm. Mm-hmm. And I was with her and holding the space, so she didn't drop right to the bottom of the chasm. Powerful understanding from just doing this work, this pearl of wisdom, this one wonder. Now, understanding that, Catherine, you can apply it in all areas of your life. I can apply it. And all of you who I'm sharing, you can start applying it. So if you've had a project, you've had a desire that of showing up in the world in a certain way, but you haven't quite taken that action. And when you have showed up, you had people that really have loved it. Like I know some of you here have known that your calling is to be a healer. And when you do show up that way, there are people that are drawn to you. But by understanding that that's great, it gives you that validation that there is something special that you have. When you enter the chasm, you don't have to give up on it. You just know you've got the early adopters. Now it's time to cross the chasm. And as you cross the chasm, every step of the way, you're actually going to engage those that really do require what you have to offer. This pearl of wisdom is the one. And this particular wonder is, the astounding wonder is the one that really uncovers so much, this tremendous blossoming. And I would say to practice it, choose a time in your life where you're going to go in and do this deep dive. And pick out the notable learnings, notable insights, notable distillations. Establish for yourself how you're going to implement what you have just uncovered. It's the pearls of wisdom, as I talk about them. I mean, it's amazing. It's fascinating even to me to see how practical they are and how I'm delivering them to you. And the main reason for that is the biggest inertia that humans have, which is why it's very easy to get stuck in thought multiplication and not get into implementation. It is the resistance to implementation. So even as I talk about each of the 7, it could be steps, it could be ways, it could be wonders. My guidance is implement it follow the steps on something that has already occurred. So your mind and your thoughts are completely immersed because the incident has already occurred. And you're just looking at it with a different perspective. At a cellular level, the conflict disappears because you've applied this new lens with which you looked at something that had already occurred and discovered something new. And then when you take action from what you have discovered, that's it. You've got a whole new cellular memory. And you're not spending time with this inner debate or inner conflict. You are literally moving forward. The fourth wonder is awe. What is awe? Awe is a feeling of reverential respect. And it's actually, it's a mixed feeling, you know. There's definitely reverential respect, but there's a mix of fear or wonder that's also present in awe. Being in awe of someone, being in awe of this phenomenal vista of nature. There is that reverential respect that you have for the creator or for this other person. And I love working with this particular wonder because I looked at, okay, what are the moments in my life where I've had this reverential respect with mixed emotions? I mean, I was in awe when I chose to go to Bali. At that point, it was, you know, when I first did it, the 3 weeks, when I first began the 3 weeks, it was, okay, I just had to do it because I wanted to get to the other side. I couldn't stand that feeling of hollowness. And I also had a physical illness. And then to discover that there were no guests in the resort that I was staying in, that they had 14 cancellations. But I was exhausted. So, okay, I had a couple of days of just recovering from jet lag. And then when I started discovering, you know, that the next phase of my life is about living an extraordinary life, where all aspects of life coexist, and I started noticing that I was actually doing that. I was the only guest. All of the faculties, the people that were there, these people who love to serve, where a guest is their God, and I was the only guest, I was receiving this reverential respect at every level in that place. I never allowed myself to receive anything. I was such a busy bee, out there giving. Even if somebody didn't want it, I would still be out there doing so that I could give. I realized that I had completely lost the understanding of what it takes to allow myself to just sit back and receive. There was reverential respect that I developed for these amazing people that were serving me so beautifully. It's as if they were tuned in to what I needed, and they would present me with exactly that. And there was mixed emotions. There was a bit of, oh, what if I get too used to this? I have this whole life and this whole world in London, which has to carry on because I have a young child, a mortgage, and all of that. And I was a caregiver as well. And I had businesses. And yet I would be in this state of wonder. By continuing to be in awe, feeling that reverential respect, I initially targeted the reverential respect to people. And then I actually started noticing the wonders of nature that were there. And it was that opened up my ability to start writing. And I would write this stuff and read it, and I didn't get fascinated. I actually got fearful initially, thinking, oh my God, what's happening? Am I developing multiple personalities? Where are these words coming from? Because I never thought like that. I was like such a corporate mindset. And then after a couple of days, it was like, well, what does it matter where they come from? I know that I'm writing and nobody else has written it. There's no one else here. It's my pen that's written it, and they actually are good. So why don't I just implement them? So this awe, feeling of reverential respect, mixed with fear and wonder, it's okay to experience the fear and still be in a state of wonder. Enjoy the awe feeling. We talk about, Catherine and many others who are in the business collective, we talk about awe, abundance and amazing. Now we know what awe actually means. It's reverential respect to the amazement that lies, reverential respect to the abundance that's flowing. It was a fascinating experience. And when I did this work, it was like, for several hours, I was immersed in the wonder of awe as I was going through that initial phase of my move to Bali and the 3 weeks. How did the 3 weeks become 9 years for someone whose every minute was, scheduled? That was fascinating. And it is this tranquil vibe where I took out all the disturbances and I started working with each one, applying it to that understanding. And you will have a moment of choice, like everyone has this, a moment of choice in your life that literally changed everything. Go understand it more and do it by applying one of the 7 wonders. This is one pearl of wisdom where you don't have to go sequentially. You can pick anyone and begin your deep dive. The 5th one, conscious of the time, the 5th wonder is amazing. Amazing basically is an extreme surprise. And it's often a positive surprise we're talking about. It's an extreme surprise. Now, as you go through the tranquil vibe and the 7 wonders, you start discovering, because this pearl of wisdom, each one, as you go into it, it isn't about mulling over. It really, you engage and you discover notable occurrences. And you automatically also unearth particular insights that you applied yourself at the time in the incident that you're examining. And it allows you, this particular wonder inquiry, amazing inquiry, gives you a collection of amazing, extreme surprises that were revealed and how they have formed the choices and decisions you've already made. And, Catherine, I would very strongly recommend to you, go back to the road trip, apply these 7 wonders to that, because you've really been catapulted to a new vantage point in your career right now. There's much to be learned from the insights that got revealed there. And this time, it will only be a tranquil vibe experience. Doesn't need to be any other way. The same thing applies to all of you. Choose a moment, whatever it may be. Choose a moment which is a turning point moment for you that you did act upon, and look at what emerged that you would call as amazing, extreme surprises. There's so many different definitions you can have of amazing, but for the purposes of this, the tranquil vibe, wonderland, it is extreme surprises that you are uncovering. There were so many extreme surprises in that journey, the 3 weeks in Bali that I had, which has shaped me even being here and being able to talk to you today. The sixth one. The sixth one is abundant. It's one of our spellings, AWE, abundant. And it's really about awesome and abundance. So awe is a feeling of reverential respect. Abundance is occurring in large amounts. Reverential respect occurring in large amounts. This was a great lay of the land, because I wanted this experience to be regenerative. It is. Abundance by itself is cool. Adding awe to it, the feeling of reverential respect, and having that become regenerative enables you to transform every area of your life. So this is where I did the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, and environmental lay of the land. And it was a moment in time. I literally looked at right now, where I'm at, where do I have that feeling of reverential respect mixed with fear or wonder in my physical space? And physical is my physical body, but also my physical space where I live. So really anchoring that, in anchoring that, it starts to multiply and regenerate by itself. Mentally, where do I have that feeling of reverential respect occurring in large amounts? What exists that really stimulates me mentally, where I have that reverential respect, and it keeps multiplying? Emotionally, I looked at where in this moment in time, there are many, many unknowns, and there's an emotional strength, despite all of that, that I do have, that I am experiencing. So the abundant audit is what I'm asking you to do here. A full spectrum abundant audit. Pick a moment in time. For me, I chose this moment in time. And then I go into spiritual, where I looked at this connection to spirit, the spirit of me, the spirit of my business, the spirit of my campaign, the spirit of the place that I'm in, the project that I'm in, the business that I'm in, the social impact that I'm connected with. What's the lay of the land? Where there is reverential respect for what is occurring, and it is multiplying, it's occurring in large amounts. I go into social dynamics. This move here, I have reconnected to, some of you read the B book, you've heard I describe in it the adventures of, traveling through, exploring through underground passages in old palaces and old temples. And I've reconnected with some of my cousins. I mean, the last time I met them was when I was 9. 2 of them were people that were there in a very specific exploration that I did, where the underground passage went underneath the river Yamuna and came out the other side in fields of melons. And it was like, wow, how amazing is it to reconnect in that way? So social dynamics, I'm like so enriched right now. Environmentally. I mean, being in Delhi, with right now the pollution levels are rising, the environmental consciousness and awareness is volumes turned up quite significantly. So I am in a space of abundance, even there, in terms of what is present for me, that I am acting upon. It is that examination that really has opened my eyes to, yes, there is plant more trees, and there are many, many people that are doing it. We have a serious existential threat of the melting of the polar ice caps, the Arctic. You can't plant more ice. You can't plant more ice. It affects the entire world. And yet there is only a small group that is giving focus on that. So when just even that realization that, okay, where am I? Where is my intervention going to be of most impact? That's occurred from this abundant lay of the land examination. Take it on. I mean, if you do that this weekend, it's a huge revelation. And the 7th one is wonderment itself. The 7th wonder of the tranquil vibe is wonderment itself, a state of awed admiration or respect. So awe itself is a reverential respect. And there's admiration that is added to it. And that is what wonderment actually is. It's when you are in this state of reverential respect and admiration for what is. Wonderment only applies to what is, not what has been or what may be. Wonderment as a vibe stations you in what is. You become meaning-free, and you are completely in a state of presence, in the tranquil vibe. And that's why I say the vibe itself leads you into wonderland of wonderment, a state of reverential respect and admiration for what is. Powerful lay of the land examination, by the way. I just went into, okay, right now, show me wonderment as it exists in my life and how it serves me. You can imagine, when you do this for yourself, you literally take everyone that you interact with directly or indirectly with you. It's as if there's a wake of wonderment that is created wherever you show up. With that, I hand it back to you, Catherine.
Wow. I don't even know where to begin to thank you, Mynoo. What a wonderful journey that was for me personally. And I think if we all do the same with our life, we will be surprised and excited. This whole idea of wonderland, of the vibe of tranquil, marvel, fascinating, astounding, awesome, amazing, abundant. I just feel so energized just hearing it, and yet just in that state of being. So thank you so much, Mynoo. That was just beautiful. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed my journey too. There's so much she did not even share, which I think is the unfolding and the unpeeling, but we all get to go on our own journeys, don't we? So thank you all for being here tonight, and we look forward to seeing you next week. And thank you, Mynoo.
and enjoy the gates of manifestation. Get clear what it is that you wish to manifest. Get across the threshold, define, describe the vibrations that you will be emanating and experiencing, assuming all that you wish to manifest is manifested. And then give it over to the universe. And so it is. Be in the tranquil vibe, onwards and upwards. Thank you.
Thank you.